By the way, I took a shower this morning, so you guys want to come closer, or shall I come closer to you? I know you like that rocking chair at the back, so yes, you like it. So, all right, that's fine with me. I said even one person, I'm good. So doesn't matter. It's not in the numbers, folks. So you know that. Who wants to pray? Anyone? Not David. Not you. Anyone else? Okay. Now I'm gonna pick, huh? All right, come on, one of you guys. Come on. I'm gonna stand here for 3 hours.
What do you want to pray about?
Just waiting for someone to. Okay. Sharon, go.
Our gracious Father in heaven, we thank you so much for this time that we've been able to spend here on your Sabbath today, for the lessons that we learned this morning, and we're praying that we can apply it to our lives. We thank you for the wonderful lunch and the fellowship that we had afterwards, and we look forward to this talk through Dr. David's this afternoon to learn more. Please open up our ears and our hearts to allow us wisdom, allow us to have a teachable spirit, so that we're not closed in our minds to what is being said, so that it can benefit us in all the ways possible. And we thank you again for allowing us to be here. We pray that your Holy Spirit will be with us, and we pray this in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. The reason why I like this church is that you folk really truly are now geared toward preaching the last message. That is so very important. We need to be always reminded who we are, why we are here, and where I'm going. We are going. Other than that, there's nothing to talk about, and we should not be. So that's why it's always a joy to come back here, no matter how many people that are in the audience. But I'm so glad that you folk really spend time on preparing yourselves and others, because we cannot share something we ourselves don't know and don't believe in. Okay, so that's so mighty important. Sugar is the sweet poison. It is very true. I mean, hopefully, if it ever happens again that you ask me to share, we could stay on sugar for a long, long time. You know, I mean, the biochemistry part and the pathophysiology part, that. But it's just a general, I view this bird's view this afternoon, what really sugar does. And if anyone believes in the conspiracy theory, this is an open book conspiracy theory. Okay, people are doing this because of two things. Number one, ignorance. People don't know what they're doing. Number two, sugar is one of the most addicting substances in the world, and people don't know that. Okay, so in a little while you're going to know this, and hopefully this sinks in. If you don't remember, again, this is going to be available. Sharon, you pick it up from there, okay, and then go from there. Anyways, actually, God's children never retire, but I was going to really block this whole thing, but then I think he wanted the title, so I put it there. This is something, I don't know the name of one Hollywood guy, not one, but I learned one, Will Smith. So you're going to know this. This is very profound. And if Hollywood knows this truth, my word, we've got to know this truth. It's a very short, 23-second thing, and watch this. Watch this.
Well, I guess I'll leave some answers, Halls.
What, you feeling chatty all of a sudden?
Sorry, I can't talk right now. I got some secret cases of my own I'm working on.
I hate to turn you away from your video game.
All right, I'm hanging on.
You know the most destructive force in the universe?
Sugar?
Regret.
Did you hear that?
Sure.
No, what was the question?
The most destructive force in
the most destructive force in the universe. And if Hollywood knows the answer, what's our problem? Really, truly. That is true. What he just said is true. It might sound funny, but it is true. My theory is that unless we wake up in the next 200 years, and there's not going to be 200 years, we're going to be home by then, okay? If the time would last, because of sugar, there will be nothing called Homo sapiens, human beings. We'll have destroyed ourselves. Very simple. It's growing exponentially, not only here, it's all over the world. I'm going to be ahead of myself a little bit. Let's take Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, UAE, Malaysia. Okay. Diabetes is rampant in these countries, rampant. Why? Officially they don't drink wine, okay? No wine in these Muslim countries. All of these are Muslim countries. So when they don't drink wine and it is very hot, what do they drink? Water is very scarce. They don't know if it's really clean water. So what do you think they drink? Coca-Cola. There you go. Someone who drinks 8-ounce bottle, it comes in bottle or can? 8 ounce, okay? 8 ounce. In 12 ounce. I think there is 12 ounce bottle. Alright. That's equivalent to enough, that's 56 calories per bottle. Okay? 156 calories per bottle. So multiply that. Drink one a day. If someone drank one of those bottles for 1 year, 360 days, and then divide it by 3,600 calories per pound, one gains 15.6 pounds of fat per year. Do we have a fat problem in this world? In this country? The answer is yes. Even our kids, our newborns are being born fat. Why? Because of what the mother did, not knowing. They're having steatotic hepatitis, that's fancy word for fatty liver, in 6-month-olds. In Japan, in Japan, what's happening? And it's not only Japan, it's now all over the world. We, unfortunately, from us here, we export misery. So McDonald's, I was in Pakistan one year, 2008, out of the nowhere, in the highway, big arch sign, McDonald's. And wow. You go to India, in the villages, you see McDonald's being eaten. I spent 1 week in an Adventist school, it used to be the headquarters of the division in India, and spoke to the school kids. These are mostly Muslim and Hindu kids, but it's run and owned by the Adventist church. And I'd asked these kids, I said, hey, how many of you have been to McDonald's this week? All these hands go up, all the week. So they're so happy. Yes, we've been to McDonald's. It's crazy, it's nuts. These are very rich kids. You see? So I said, okay, I have a question to ask you. Many of your grandparents live with you, right? Yeah, the answer is yes. That's culture, Grandparents live with their kids, and the grandkids grow up with them. So it used to be that way here too. But anyways, so I said, how many of your grandparents are diabetics? No hands go up. How many of your parents are diabetics? You see, so many hands go up. So I said, kids, what has gone different? Think. People ate Indian food for years and years, for generation after generation, no problems. And then came pizza. And then came cheeseburger and hamburger. All these chronic problems at the end. Let me tell you why this is happening. And then after knowing what's going on, if you want to still go to Pizza Hut and McDonald's, that's your choice. You have to make your choice. You don't want to be like your parents. So, it is so important, it is so easy to share. These kids are listening. So, it's unbelievable how much they want. 1 month, this was a few years back, I spoke at San Bernardino High School. This is the toughest area. San Bernardino, just next door is Loma Linda University. And speaking to these 17-year-old kids. So I'm talking to them with marijuana use. And so I tell them statistics and listen, kids, it is known, I'm showing you, the kids who use marijuana at least 3 times a week for years, studies do show that most of them don't go and make it to college, and they cannot stay in college. I want the young man to really hear this. You're going to grow up and there's going to be kids just a few more years doing marijuana, and so it's going to be your choice. So I says, look, most of them don't go to and cannot finish college. And the ones who do, and if they drop out or whatever, they cannot hold on to a job. Why? Because it destroys your neurons, your brain cells. And then you show them the pictures, what's happening. Okay? And then and they're all listening. So, and then I said, look, I think I can say this. Sperm, for example, all right? The ones who use marijuana, their sperms don't work right. And the sperm count goes down tremendously. So they have fertility problem. All these girls are all listening, and the guys. You see, and I show them what's happening. They cannot even go straight, you see, because these kids are using marijuana on a regular basis. When I was done, all these kids said, we want you back. Please come back. They already worked it out that I would go there 3 times to speak to them. Then I came up to Ohio. When I was in Ohio, they legalized marijuana in California. So I never got a call to go back. Some people in the policy-making places of our country are responsible, perhaps, for the death and destruction of the brains of many people. And I hope that the same thing is not true with the church hierarchy, with some of the policies we make that can hurt the Lord's kingdom. Anyways, that's the part I wanted to say. Let's go on. But I tell you, we have a beautiful message. I mean, kids, in fact, that school that I was telling you about in India, most of the teachers were Muslims or Hindus, okay? So they wanted me to speak to them. Sure, fine. I spoke at the church. The church was full of these teachers. I spoke to them for an hour. And when I'm done, I'm putting my things together. One of the teachers told another teacher leaving the church, he says, from this day, my kitchen has changed. So if it's only one person that I can touch, anywhere I go and speak, is my worth, my tree. This is important. One person. So, and then in fact, this was the union campus, a lot of union big bosses are there, and at least 2 of them told me, these are department heads, says our son, our daughter has changed. He would not eat stuff anymore, except fruits, nuts, and grains. They have made up their mind. This is how we're going to live our lives. If you can touch one life, it's what all the efforts. It's all what all the efforts. Remember the song, Sugar in the Morning, Sugar in the Noontime, Sugar in Supper Time? I was going to put that in there. I said maybe it's not very appropriate to do that. So, sugar consumption, look at this book, 1820, right? About 4 pounds. This was mostly honey and some refined sugar or cane sugar that people were using. This is 1820, 4 pounds. Most of people ate fruits, nuts, and grains. You see what happened underground, like potatoes, sweet potatoes. And then it went up to 2005, about 100 pounds per capita, per head, for people in this country. Okay, so some people obviously take more, some less. That averages about 100 pounds of sugar per year. Alright, maybe this is the time to also mention, if indeed you gave sugar sweetness on, say 100, sugar sweetness is equivalent to 100. That makes sense? We're just taking it. Sugar, 100 is sweetness. Glucose, you have heard the word, right? Glucose? Glucose is 72 is sweetness. So glucose sweetness is much lesser. So that's why people tend to use sugar more. But glucose, we cannot operate without glucose in our body. Period. When we eat, it's turned into glucose. Glucose is the one that really burns in our body. All the cells in our bodies use glucose, including the brain. Now, in starvation, some parts of the fat, beta-hydroxyglutarate is a part of ketone. That's the key. You're going to hear ketone bodies are used in the brain. That's the only one of the three that's used up in the brain. But glucose is the fuel for all our cells in our bodies. We need glucose. Very simple. We can't live without. But if it's too much, or if the body cannot burn it properly, then that's the problem starts there. All right. Guidance data says, remember I told you, consumed 100 pounds of sugar per person in 2005. All right, per head. Michael Moss wrote an interesting book. I have not bought it yet. Salt, sugar, and fat. These three single-handedly are destroying this country and the world. But sugar is the biggest culprit among these. And we are addicted to sugar. Look at this, meat consumption per capita. Look at this. In 1961, now about, by the way, this is kilograms, so that's 2.2 pounds in a kilogram, right? So 90 was 180, about 184 or so pounds per year that individually we were consuming in 1961. Look at what has happened now. Okay, in 2002, so much higher consumption. Some other countries, Germany was going down, Sweden up, Japan up. So we consume quite a bit of meat here and around the world. Are we doing okay? Should I stop in 5 minutes? No? Okay. All right, just checking, So, all right. You compare meat consumption to 1965 to 2016. Look at this, 2016 going up again. All right, so this is per pound. So it's more than 200 pounds per year per head in this country that we're consuming. Some more, some less. Chicken is going up, and let's see, what's this one here? Beef consumption has gone down, but chicken might be worse than beef. But again, grass-fed beef is better than the corn-fed. All right, per capita consumption, 203. This is average calorie consumption around the world is going higher, more and more. Men need about 2,400 calories, and women about 2,000 calories. But look at this, 2,000. this is per calorie, consumption of calories. It's saying only 1 out of 7 people around the world is going to be consuming less than 2,500 calories per day. So we are consuming much more than what we need. And of course that turns into fat. Percentage of US adults consuming more than 2,300 milligrams of salt. Remember, salt, sugar, and fat. And we are more than any other countries. This one I think is Canada and Japan. We are consuming much more than anyone else. No, this is in SRI. I do not know what country that one is. This is Canada. We're consuming salt per capita more than anyone else. Michael Moss explains, or perhaps exposes, how the food giants have hooked consumers on processed convenience food by fine-tuning the maximum appeal, the fat, sugar, and salt content in their formulation. If you're going to learn anything from here today, I'm urging you, stay away from heat and eat food. Stay away from. Okay? Because there are 10 food giants in the world. 10. Like General Mills, for example. Okay, is one of those. 10 of them, Kraft. They produce 90% of the foods that's sold in the supermarkets and the shelves. Okay, and what's happening? They know exactly how much salt is to add, how much fat, and how much sugar to appeal to your brain. So when you go and you don't even know what you're buying. So it's important that we know what we are eating. There are 56 names for sugar. They hide the name sugar, okay? But you have to, they'll say evaporated corn juice. That's nothing but sugar. So anyway, they're not interested in your health. They're interested in your pocketbook. So, all right. So human tongue, the tip is salt and sugar. That's for sensation. And taste buds are sour on both sides and bitter at the back. There are 600,000, important folk, there are 600,000 different food items in the shelves of the grocery stores all across this country, and 80% of them contain added sugar. So you're buying ketchup and you think it's fine. You go and read the ingredients. If there's more than 5 ingredients, stay away from that. Stay away. Okay, important. In fact, to me, buy all basic stuff and put your things together, whatever you want to eat. This man, Robert Lustig, is, single-handedly, he's working so hard. He's a physician, he's a pediatric neuroendocrinologist in the University of California, San Francisco. He retired, but he's still going all over the world, helping people quit smoking, drinking, using sugar. Lustig recommends, if you want real food, shop along the walls of the store and not in the aisles. Because the aisles are full of those boxes, and any of those boxes have the stuffed sugar in there. Some are hiding that they're not going to tell you. And they're going to sell you refined carbohydrates, stay away from that as well. That's Lustig. In 2009, the American Heart Association issued recommended upper limits of intake of the added sugars, all right? For women, 6 teaspoons per day, very important. So if you buy any added food, you see how much of sugar you have and why. I'm going to explain it to you in just a little while. For men, they said 9 teaspoonfuls. We are taking average of 22 teaspoonfuls per day. This is crazy of what we're doing to ourselves. For children, it's 3 to 6 teaspoonfuls of sugar per day. Okay. There are 4.2 grams of sugar in 1 teaspoonful of sugar. Okay, 4.2 grams per 1 teaspoonful. So 1 gram of sugar has 4 calories. A 12-ounce bottle of Coke has 39 grams of sugar and 156 calories. We talked about it just a little earlier. Now, important, 37% of all our sugar calories come from beverages. This, I'd like for you to remember this. If you don't like your mother-in-law or your whatever sister-in-law, give them drinks every day. I'm just kidding, but what I'm saying is that no, we should stay away from soft drinks or any kind of juice. Juice is the worst thing we can go for, and I'll explain it to you in just a little while. Adult calorie requirement per day for men is 2,000 to 3,000 calories, and for women is 1,600 to 2,400 calories. Depends on if you are a marathon runner, then of course you need more calories. But if you work on the computer, you need much less. Alright, calories are mean of energy, measure of energy in the food. Yes, we all know that one. In the US, added sugar accounts for up to 17% of total calorie intake in adults and 14% in children. Again, this is really a sobering thought. It should be zero, and we are facing our problems because of this, what we're doing. If your mouth is watering, this one, you need help. So yes, there's a time I used to like Cheerios so much, but yes, we all grow. These things all have one thing in common. By now you know what it is, right? And some of these are really, truly loaded with sugar. Really, truly. Whatever there is, Captain Crunch and then cinnamon, it's unbelievable when you look at the side how much sugar there is. Okay. This Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, Mountain Dew, every society you go to all over the world, they are using this. And it's hurting. I mean, the consumption of this is unbelievable, how much they're selling. Right? Only 2 persons in the world know the chemical combination of Coke, and they never fly in a plane together. Never. Okay. This was 6.5 ounce Coca-Cola bottle. I think 1915. That's when they started in Atlanta, Georgia. And you know the largest bottle now has 60 ounces. And I think in somewhere in Texas, you could buy 1 60-ounce bottle and do return something else all for 99 cents. Sad, very sad. Sugar cane, some of us know this and we have chewed on it. It's a lot of fun. But you burn a lot of calories just by chewing and peeling this thing. And 80% of the world's sugar supply comes from sugar cane, and this is just a side story. But you know, if you go for unrefined brown sugar, that has quite a bit of other nutrients in there other than the just plain calories. And this is sugar, beet sugar, and EU is the world's largest producer of beet sugar, which makes up to 20% of the world's total sugar production. Quite a bit. Beet itself is very good. In fact, there's something in there called nitrous oxide that opens up your blood vessel, and so that's something good to take. The ones of you have had chemistry, if you have not, I just need to show you this. Glucose is a 6-carbon ring. One of those is attached with an oxygen here, and these are all carbon chain, 6 of those, okay? And that's glucose. This is what our body burns. Every living cell in our body burns glucose, all right? Now sucrose, table sugar, is a different story. It has a glucose and a fructose in here, okay? Fructose is a 5-carbon, 1, 2, there are 5 carbons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, and there's an oxygen to get the ring together. This glycosidic bond is split in the stomach within 2 seconds of us taking sugar. So if we had any sugar lunchtime, this is what had happened. In 2 seconds, it breaks the bond. This one is digested much different than this one in here. So there is no biological need. This is mighty important. There is no biological need for dietary fructose. So all the sugar that we consume, half of sugar is glucose, roughly half is glucose, half is fructose. There is no need for us to ever have fructose in our body. Never. Okay. Alright, when ingested by itself, it's poorly digested and absorbed. Alright, it almost entirely cleared by the liver, and the liver is the one that pays the price. I'm talking about fructose. In the circulating concentration is very, very minimal of fructose in the body. Is 0.01 millimole per liter, but in the sugar is 5.5 millimole per liter. I'm sorry, it's a little deep thing in there, but I want to spend some time on this slide. What happens when eats an apple? Okay. Anyone? Now, I hope no one in here has had to ever go to the hospital because of blood sugar being low. Or maybe Dave, he probably fell asleep there. Did I put him to sleep? David, he's out. Huh? Maybe we should get on this case. So, David, do you sometimes transport people who have low blood sugar, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you folks check the blood sugar and then you push a D50 sometimes. Alright. Before you even come to the ER. Alright. So do you ever give them orange juice?
Juices or peanut butter or something like that.
Oh, peanut butter, okay. Right. So you do give juices. In the ER, if indeed the nurse would not even tell me that someone's blood sugar is low. You know, they check the blood sugar, well, it's 42, you know, and give them a glass of orange juice. And in 3 to 4 minutes, the blood sugar goes up. It goes into the stomach, and then it goes in the small intestine. 3 to 4 minutes after just drinking it. All right, and it's absorbed, and it goes into the bloodstream, close to the brain, and the brain absorbs the glucose. And in 3 to 4 minutes of them getting it down, it's absorbed in the brain. They're awake, they're perky, everything is fine. So the nurse will send someone to the kitchen and get a regular meal to give to them, because the sugar level would go down fairly quickly. So that's what happens when someone drinks an apple juice or an orange juice or any kind of juice. For that reason, our Creator did not give us apple juice or orange juice. He gave us the apple to eat. If you're going to get anything from this talk, this is the one that you have to go home with. If you want to stay sick or be sick, drink all the juice you can. You're going to make your doctor very happy. We shouldn't have any juice in the home. This is important. Again, I'm explaining to you why. Because the wrong thing is absorbed. It's not the glucose. You don't need the fructose. Fructose is poison. What makes sugar the poison is the fructose, not the glucose. You see, so that's the biggest reason why, the only reason why we should not be having any kind of juice that has whatever sugar in there, because it's absorbed so very quickly. So when the absorption happens in the blood vessel, right, it gets into the blood. Your blood sugar is high. What's happening to the pancreas? What's happening there? The signal goes to the brain. You have sugar to burn. So right away, the pancreas goes to work. Okay, the islet cells of Langerhans in the islet cells, it starts to release insulin. So the insulin level goes up. So when the insulin level goes up, what happens? The sugar gets pushed into the cell. Okay? or in the adipocyte, in the fat cells, to be stored as fat. All right? It goes through the, of course, the liver, and then that's where it goes and becomes part of the fat cells. So, anyways, and so it happens very quickly, just like that. So when the blood sugar is up, insulin goes up, sugar goes down, and you're grumpy again, and it has something else in there. Okay, so this process goes down all the time, and let's not do that. So the Lord gave us an apple to eat. Now, this is a really, truly like for you to hope to hear this. When you chew on the apple, what are you doing? You said the apple has 70 calories. An apple, 70 calories. 30 of the 70 calories will never be absorbed. 30 of the 70 calories will never be absorbed. It's going to go to the large intestine. This morning I told you about bacteria in the large intestine. That's when they start to have a big feast. They say, wow, we got the stuff we like. So they are feasting on that 30 calories that have never been absorbed. They go into the large intestine, that the bacteria are eating it, and they're producing your neurotransmitters. So that's why it's important for us to eat the apple itself. That's why our Creator gave us the apple, not the apple juice. Okay? So it takes, once you eat the apple, not only 30 grams, 30 calories if it is not absorbed, not only that, but it also takes 1 to 2 hours for it to be absorbed. So 1 to 2 hours, the blood sugar then it starts to go up, okay? And versus suddenly the blood sugar is going up. So it was not meant to be that way, okay? It stays in the stomach and is slowly released into the small intestine where the absorption, assimilation takes place. So it's might be important for us to really truly go back to the Lord's original plan, how to eat, when to eat, what to eat. So, when ingested by itself, fructose is poorly absorbed from the gastrointestinal tract. We talked about that, but the most important thing is that all of the calories here are absorbed. Every single bit of it. You don't need the fructose that harms your liver. Glucose is absorbed very, very quickly, and it raises your blood sugar. It also raises your insulin level. All right. This is the portion, cross-section of the intestine, small intestine here. You see the villi. This is what the absorption takes place, and this is cut section of a real small intestine. I want to go back to one more thing here to the apple. Apple, everyone knows about fiber, right? Okay. Does orange juice have any fiber? Yes or no? None. Nada. Zero. There's 5 grams of fiber in here. This is mighty important for us to take home. That's why I told you that this is the most important slide. 5 grams of fiber. There are 2 kinds of fiber. Soluble. So what would be the other kind? Insoluble. All right. Both of them are needed. Pectin is a soluble fiber, for example. All right. Now, what happens when you chew and swallow the apple? Is of course it's crushed up. The insoluble fiber creates a network here of one portion because there's only so much of insoluble fiber in there. So not the entire gut length, okay? So in one area, it forms a little meshwork, network. And then the soluble fiber goes in between, like here. This is insoluble fiber. The soluble fiber gets in here, all right? So it blocks. So if it's sitting right against the wall, the little meshwork, the insoluble, because of the soluble and the insoluble fiber, no calorie is absorbed here of the apple. That's why this can move forward, go through the gut length, go into the large intestine, and it becomes food for the bacteria. For anything to be absorbed in the intestine, small intestine, it has to come. Let me show you, this is a little bit more magnified, this is the electronic microscope here. It has to come in contact with the microvilli. But because of the fiber, the soluble and the insoluble fiber, that does not happen. The master knew exactly what he was doing. So he gave us the apple, not the apple juice. Okay? He gave us the apple and not the apple juice. So mind important for us to take this home. I don't care if you take anything else home. This is the most important slide I wanted to show you. Alright, so this is a normal liver. About 2.4% fat in here. Perfect, beautiful looking liver. This one does not look too beautiful. Now, Muslim countries, they don't drink alcohol, at least not officially. But alcohol and fructose are digested exactly the same way. Exactly the same way. The liver handles alcohol and glucose exactly the same way. So that's why there's an alcoholic fatty liver and non-alcoholic fatty liver. Both are the same. When you slice it and put it under the microscope, the fatty liver, they are indistinguishable from one another. So whether one is drinking wine or not, if someone is taking so much of fructose, sugar, no matter what form you're taking it, you're hurting yourself. Whether someone calls it alcoholic fatty liver or non-alcoholic fatty liver, it absolutely does not matter. They're doing liver transplant now in university centers of young people who are consuming so much sugar that they're getting sick so quickly. Look at this one. I mean, you know what this person died of. Horrible looking. Look at the difference between the two. Alright? Perfect looking liver. And look at this one. Excess intake of high fructose corn syrup is associated with atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease and stroke. How does it happen? I'm going to explain it to you in just a bit. Stanhope Kimber Stanhope, really, truly a brilliant lady. I have her picture there, right there, Stanhope. And she's a scientist and she has been studying sugar, high fructose corn syrup. And by the way, high fructose corn syrup is same as sugar. So this is what she says. Consuming beverage containing 10%, 17.5% or 25% of energy requirement from high fructose corn syrup produce dose-dependent, again, dose-dependent increases in circulating lipid, lipoprotein, okay, lipid and protein together, fat and protein together, risk factor for cardiovascular disease or cerebrovascular disease and uric acid within 2 weeks only. So if someone wants to do an experiment and start to take this, whether it's 10%, 17% or 25% in 2 weeks, shows the problem in the blood vessels. We have 75,000 mass of blood vessels in our body. And it's a heart as big as our fist that pumps it all over the body. You see? So we have to be very careful what goes into our mouths. Again, this is Stanhope's work itself. I'm quoting her. All right. So we talked about sugar turning into fat. This is what happens. It's the liver that does it. Now there are lipoprotein, low density lipoprotein and small. There are two different kinds of lipoproteins. Okay. LDL, they're going to tell you what's your LDL liver. Of course, it's coming from the sugar, LDL level. Like, there's two kinds. One is a pattern A and pattern B. A is larger one, so it's in the blood vessel. It just flows through. It does not hurt you. So even if you have very high LDL type A, pattern A, it's fine. But if it's pattern B, this is the one that goes under the lining of the blood vessel, and that becomes atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. That causes the plaques. That's what kills people. So high sugar content will do hurt people. They get blood vessel disease. That will also higher chance of strokes and heart attacks. All right, this is schematic view of the blood vessel right in the intima. This is the vein and this is the artery. The artery muscular layer is thicker, and this is the intima, one layer, endothelial cell. When one eats so much of sugar, it turns into fat. I showed you how in the liver it happens, and it goes right under that single layer of cell, and it deposits there, causing, this is normal aorta. Okay, this is the subendothelium, the innermost line of the blood vessel, and in no time, this is what happens. And they call 911, and Dave Smith wakes up and it runs in there, gets the person. 50% of the time, the first sign of heart attack for 50% of cases is sudden death. Okay. Sudden death. People, they don't even know that high blood pressure, they can be normal. Everything normal. But 50% of people, for first sign is sudden death. First sign of heart attack is sudden death. This is why. Okay, this blocks off, this breaks off and goes to when blocks the heart artery, and no oxygen, the heart dies, person dies. Alright. It's one of the arteries that could reach the aorta, but look at these white areas. These are all plaques, all over. Alright, and probably that's what killed this gentleman. These little holes that you see are small blood vessels coming off of this larger blood vessel. Normal artery, atherosclerotic plaque in there, and we talked about this a little while ago. It's not only fat that hurts us, not only fat, it's also the sugar that causes this problem. Something to take home. Sugar increases the chance of developing cancer. So initially we talked about sugar causing blood vessel problem, heart attack and strokes, and Lewis Cantley, I think I was pictured. Lewis Cantley is a cell biologist, and he is the one who proved that sugar is responsible for certain kind of cancer, especially breast cancer, uterine cancer. Okay, 1 out of every 7 ladies in this country will develop breast cancer. It used to be 1 out of 9, 1 out of 7. So we have to be very careful what we eat. Lewis Cantley hasn't eaten sugar in decades. I have a very little simple rule. He says, I eat fruit, but I don't eat anything that has sugar added to it. And I guarantee everybody would be better off if they ate 0 sugar. This is in 2019, he says, March 20, 2019. He, Harvard University researcher, and I think he worked in another place as well. We learn more and more about cancer metabolism, and we understand that individual cancers are addicted to particular things. In a lot of cases, that's insulin and sugar. He is the one who, the next slide I think is going to be pretty hectic, and I don't want to spend too much time. But he has found an enzyme, okay? Here's PI3, phosphoinositol kinase 3 enzyme that he has identified. Any cell that has this enzyme is deadly, because what it does, it helps the cell to attract insulin, and with the insulin comes sugar, and that's why anyone who has cancer and who has this enzyme on the membrane, okay, the cancer spreads like crazy, very, very quickly, and that person can die very, very quickly. because of that one enzyme that causes this problem. All right. Sugar is addicting, all right? Dr. Eric Stiles who came up with this fairly recently, and he said, he's been wearing earrings in there. But anyway, Stiles claims that sugar is one of the most addicting substances in the world, all right? You know, dopamine is a neurotransmitter, but people who do drugs, for example, their dopamine is down-regulated, or in other words, at given time, they need more drugs to give them the satisfaction. Okay? So whether it's cocaine or any drugs, okay, they need more and more because the dopamine down-regulates itself. It happens to be same with sugar. Sugar is addicting, so sugar down regulates the dopamine function, and dopamine deals with pleasure, whereas serotonin deals with happiness. Dopamine is one person involved. Pleasure is one person. It's my pleasure. I do things, I drink wine because it gives me pleasure. Okay? Whereas happiness, serotonin, is a group activity. Okay? So when we help, when we do, people who do crack cocaine, it's for themselves. It's for themselves. It's not for someone else, because it gives them the individual pleasure, not the group happiness. So when we may or may not realize, but we get sugar addicted. We want to eat something. By the way, once every how many months or so, I'll have a root beer. You see, but I have to control, right? I said, well, when I come to Ohio and I'll pass by somewhere and I'll have a meal, I'll go to, what's that? It's Hispanic food that you, what's the name of that food? You go to these restaurants, and this chain of restaurants, no, it has one word. It's gonna come to my mind. But anyways, they have all kinds of stuff in there. So okay, I'll take a root beer. But you know, on occasion it's okay. But then to do it every day, some people drink 12-ounce bottles every day, and more than one. You know that they consume, and they're the ones who are running into trouble. So look at this brain center reward. Okay, let me read this. What the color means. This is MRIs. Okay, the one on the left upper corner is normal brain. Okay, brain of an abused person. Okay, so the red one is normal. The yellow one is dopamine difficulty because of that person is addicted to something, and any of this like cocaine or even sugar, they have more difficulty having joy and pleasure because they need more. Okay, and the green one is the dopamine, no dopamine, or very low dopamine, and they have lack of pleasure, and they are going to tolerance. You see. And they need more and more and more of stimulus to derive the pleasure, and in the process, they are really truly destroying their brain cells. Eating high sugar foods lights up your brain on an MRI like a Christmas tree. This is a quotation from a physician. All right. The part of the brain that lights up is the very same part of the brain that's triggered by cocaine or heroin, according to the research. Okay, this is David Ludwig. All right, sugar and high fructose corn syrup have same effect on the pleasure centers of the brain as any illicit drug, and causes as much dependence as any street drug. Evidence? Look at the rate of consumption of sugar and high fructose corn syrup and look at the worldwide obesity and its consequences. So very true. So very true. The evidence is right there in front of our eyes. Sugar, diabetes, and Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's was diagnosed by Dr. Alzheimer in 1906 in Germany, and today it's considered the third highest killer in this country by some journals. A few years back it was the fifth highest killer. Today is the third highest killer. What's happening? Our lifestyle has changed. Our eating habit has changed. We're eating the wrong stuff, and we're paying the price. Diabetics have a four times, 400% chance of developing Alzheimer's disease when compared with non-diabetics. 4 times more. All right. Single biggest risk factor of developing Alzheimer's disease is type 2 diabetes. Could artificial sweeteners be bad for your brain? Is aspartame in there? It's an amino acid. The answer is yes. Okay. Researchers analyzed health data from nearly 3,000 adults and who had filled out diet surveys and determined their incidence of stroke or dementia over 10 years. The results were alarming. Compared with people who said they did not consume diet drinks, those who had at least one per day suffered 3 times more strokes and were 3 times more likely to develop dementia. 3 times more. All right. Consumption of regular non-diet soda drinks was not linked to a high rate of these brain problems. All right. This is talking about how the sugar is absorbed in the cell. The thing that causes Alzheimer's, one of the 2 things is amyloid, beta amyloid. Beta amyloid is degraded in the brain by insulin degrading enzyme. Okay, it's called insulin degrading enzyme, and it's so the beta amylase and also insulin are degraded by the same enzyme. So what happens is that when we have too much of insulin in the brain, then the insulin degrading enzyme is involved in degrading the insulin, and the level of beta amylase stays high in the brain, and that's the one that causes Alzheimer's. So when we are diabetics, our insulin level is high in the brain. That's contributing to dementia and Alzheimer's disease. All right. Schematic diagram of insulin degrading enzyme. I just talked about it a little while ago. All right. Under normal conditions, both insulin and amyloid beta peptide in the brain are broken down by insulin degrading enzyme. I just told you just a little while ago. I know it's kind of too involved, but I just wanted you to have a bird's eye view, and I'll leave it with you. You go over it again and again and again and again, and it's going to make sense. And if anyone else wants it, you take it from her. But in an insulin-resistant individual or in type 2 diabetic, the insulin-dependent enzyme is busy breaking down the increased level of insulin in the brain, and amyloid beta continues to deposit in the brain, giving rise to untimely to Alzheimer's disease. All right. This amyloid beta also blocks the insulin receptors GLUT4, blocking the insulin from entering the brain cell and depriving brain of energy. I mean, this can all be taken care of by cutting down our sugar intake. Okay, and sugar comes in so many different ready-made foods that if we were really truly cognizant, just like the doctor earlier who has not taken any sugar for years, and he's urging others not to do so, not to take any sugar. things would be different. Because the other thing also for us, if anyone has this problem, is to ask your doctor, please check my fasting insulin level, not fasting blood sugar. If your blood sugar is higher than normal, the horse is out of the barn already. Okay, so even if we're dealing with diabetes, but if we know that our pancreas is producing enough insulin, we're in good shape. That's very important. Okay, so I mean, you ask your physician, kindly order fasting insulin level. That's going to be very, very revealing, very revealing. Because given time, the pancreas does not produce insulin or enough insulin, so because of what's happening to our body. So it's good for us to know what our fasting insulin level is, and we can go from there. And let's not go into that. GLUT4 is a small protein that binds with glucose that helps the glucose to get into the muscles, the fat, and the brain cells. So this GLUT4 is a little protein on the membrane of the individual cells that helps the glucose, that binds with sugar, with glucose for it to get into the cell. Okay, and it's regulated by insulin. Our brain cannot use protein, it cannot use other sugars, it can only use glucose under normal condition. We talked about that earlier. When we start, we go to the beta-hydroxybutyrate, we talked about it earlier. That's the only one that can be used by brain, and it's a breakdown product of fat. Fructose cannot be used by the brain cells. I told you before, fructose has no place in our body, none. And if I'm going to urge you, stay away from fructose of any form as possible. For men, it's 9 teaspoonful. For ladies, it's 6 teaspoonful. But even if we can go down to 0, it would be great. Every now and then we do something, but it should not be on a regular basis. That's why we really hurt ourselves. So this is another message I'd like for you to go home with. High fructose corn syrup is rampant in this country. We're taking an average of 63 pounds per year per head, and it should really be 0. David Smith stays busy. He was just saying that he had 63 hours last week. Much of this would not happen if we were following these instructions. Following what the Lord gave us in the scriptures, I give you fruits, nuts, and grains to eat. Fructose cannot be used by brain cells, therefore there is no inhibitory signal that you had enough sweets. There you are. So the brain cells say, come on, I need some more food, I need some more sweets. Because fructose in the can of pop, the brain does not touch that. The brain does not understand anything that this is sweet stuff in there, because brain cannot handle it. They have done studies. They'll take a bunch of kids to a restaurant, and before they sit down, they'll give everyone a bottle of soft drink, Coke. Chug it down in no time. Tell me, what do you think? Do they eat more or less? What do you think? And why do you think they eat more? Why? Because the fructose in that Coke has no effect on the brain. The brain does not recognize it. So they want to eat. They eat more calories. So these food companies, they're really not food, they're poison. Companies already know the behavior of the kids.